the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes, part of Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. Amazing selection, reliably low prices. Visit rockauto.com and tell them Locked On sent you. It is Thursday, May the 6th in the year 2021. And as this week keeps on rolling, we're going to continue talking about those Buckeyes that got drafted in this most recent NFL draft. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at jsteven07. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter as well at Locked On Buckeye. Lineup for today in segment 2, Kevin Oestreicher, host of Locked On Ravens, will be with us to talk about Shaun Wade being drafted by the Baltimore Ravens. Segment 3, talk about the Buckeyes getting a commit from a 3-star recruit in the state of Florida. We begin today's show talking about a post-spring top 25 that CBS Sports put out just a day ago. With spring practice being over, it's time not only for teams to evaluate what they have, see where they need to improve upon, and it's a time for people in the media, major networks, a lot of them will put out a top 25 about how they see things going right now. You know, at the end of the season, end of the college football season, Alabama won the national title, and then sometimes that night or a few hours later, there is your way too early top 25, and everybody starts projecting the top 25 for next season. January 11th, maybe January 12th, when the game actually ended on the clock, Eastern time. But you always know the season starts late August, early September. You always can project what happens down the road. We just got done with the NFL draft, and we talked about just yesterday a way too early 2022 NFL mock draft. That's literally about a year from now, a little less calendar-wise, days-wise, than a year from now, but you get the picture. About a year from now, it will be the next NFL draft, and we're already hearing about way too early mock drafts being put out. Well, CBS Sports compiled, and with every spring game being over, they said this is the perfect time to put out their post-spring top 25 to update the rankings. Top 25, I'll go 25 through 1, cancel that, scratch that. We're going to go and talk about what conference, Group of 5, and independents, how many from each category are in this top 25. We'll go 10 to 1, tell you where the Big Ten teams are, as well as what CBS Sports has to say about this year's Ohio State Buckeye football team. When it goes by conferences, you're going to find this and may be shocked when I look at it. I did a tally and counted this a couple times. There are 6 Big Ten teams in this top 25. There are 5 SEC teams in this top 25. Both the Big 12 and the Pac-12 have 4 teams apiece. ACC 3, Group of 5 2, Coastal Carolina and Cincinnati, and then 1 independent, Notre Dame, University of Notre Dame Fighting Irish. The Big Ten teams go as follow. The team up north, number 23. The Indiana Hoosiers, number 21. Number 20, the Penn State Nittany Lions. Number 18, the Iowa Hawkeyes. Keep on going. Number 12, the Wisconsin Badgers. And then your Ohio State Buckeyes are in the top 10. We'll go 10 through 1 and let you know how that goes. Number 10, Cincinnati Bearcats. Number 9, Texas A&M Aggies. Number 8, Oregon Ducks, a team that Ohio State plays September 11th in week 2 of the upcoming season. Number 7, North Carolina Tar Heels. Number 6, the Iowa State Cyclones, who are on the up and up. A lot of people have been predicting this upward trajectory. There we go for this team, and it's going to continue this year. Number 5, Georgia Bulldogs. They seem to always be in the top or in the mix, but somehow throughout the season, And something always happens to where they're not there a lot of times at the end of the season. Number 4, your Ohio State Buckeyes. Number 3, Oklahoma Sooners, who I think will be this upcoming national championship game for next season. Number 2, Clemson Tigers. Number 1, Alabama Crimson Tide. This is what CBS Sports had to say in their post-spring updated top 25 about the Ohio State Buckeye team. Quote, the Buckeyes lost superstar quarterback Justin Fields to the 2021 NFL Draft, but the cupboard is anything but bare in Columbus. Ohio State has strung together a pair of elite signing classes over the past couple of years. Included in those classes were 5-star quarterback Kyle McCord, 2021 class, and 4-star quarterbacks C.J. Stroud and Jack Miller, 2020 class members. Ohio State will once again be the favorite to finish at the top of the pile in the Big Ten, and that means another potential playoff berth for the program. When looking at this top 10 and thinking about what Ohio State did during the spring, what we saw in the spring game, factoring in those players that were absent during said game, there's a lot of optimism, a lot of reasons to be excited or happy about the future, the immediate future for the Ohio State Buckeyes. From the quarterback position, the most important one, the running backs. You got a lot of leadership up front on the offensive line, which is going to help immensely. Whatever quarterback is back there calling the shots, they can look up front and say from tackle to tackle, we have experience. There might be a newcomer there, but they got a little run last year, and we can see exactly what's to come next. Tight end, you got Jeremy Ruckert and a lot of guys under him that are very talented. Wide receiver room, people say, this is something I've seen on Twitter quite a bit. People say, oh, this room is full. This room is loaded. Yes, that is true. But sometimes wide receiver rooms are loaded or full as you think, and the talent might not be there like it is projected. But one special thing about this Ohio State wide receiver room, it's really, really talented. I'm not going to go out on the limb like others have and say it's the best in the country. Not going to do that. I will say it's one of the best. I've heard USC has a really talented, immensely talented wide receiver room as well. On defense, a lot of leadership, some youngsters, and a young man in Jack Sawyer who is going to push the older players to be all they can be. Youth at linebacker, youth as far as experience at linebacker, not as far as tenure on how long they've been on the football team. But there might be a transfer or two that might be coming in. Henry T, I've seen a lot on Twitter. I can't pronounce his last name, so I'm not going to try it. But if Henry T comes in, a lot of you will be very, very happy. Defensive backs, there's a lot of talent there that hasn't been tapped into, a lot of potential there. We're going to see right before our eyes this year. A lot of reasons to be excited. Don't be upset. This is only a poll. The games have not been played. And once the game's been played, you prove what you believe or what you show what you think your team is or what your team is. Are the rankings right? Are they wrong? We'll find that out when the season starts in the fall. When we come back, I'll step away very quickly. When we come back, we'll be joined by Kevin Oestreicher, host of Locked On Ravens, managing editor of the Ravens Wire, as he helps us learn more about how Shaun Wade fits into the Baltimore Ravens defense. But first, check this out. RockAuto.com is a family business serving auto parts customers online for 20 years. Go to RockAuto.com to shop for auto and body parts from hundreds of manufacturers. They have everything from engine control modules and brake parts to tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. Whether it's for your classic or daily driver, get everything you need in a few easy clicks delivered directly to your door. The RockAuto.com catalog is unique and remarkably easy to navigate. Quickly see all the parts available for your vehicle and choose brands, specifications, and prices you prefer. Best of all, prices at RockAuto.com are always reliably low, and the same for professionals and do-it-yourselfers. Go to RockAuto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, locked on in their "How do you hear about us" box, so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com. And before we get into my conversation with Kevin Oestreicher, host of Locked On Ravens and managing editor of the Ravens Wire, I want to remind you to make sure you subscribe to whatever area you tap into and and consume, that's the word, Locked on Buckeyes on a daily basis every Monday through Friday. Fresh episodes are dropped for you every single week. Sometimes, like this week, there is a bonus episode that will be dropped as well. So you want to make sure you are subscribed. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Odyssey app, or iHeartRadio, or wherever you get the podcast feed, the audio version, or youtube.com/Locked on Buckeyes. Subscribe there on YouTube, WKYC.com. So many places to consume and enjoy Locked on Buckeyes every Monday through Friday. And joining us now, continuing the recap of Buckeye draft picks that took place over the past weekend, it is Kevin Oestreicher, the host of Locked on Ravens and the managing editor of the Ravens Wire as well. Kevin, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Jay. It was an exciting draft for the Ravens. 8 very good draft picks, one of them which was a Buckeye. So very excited about that one as well.
Absolutely. Your excitement makes me excited as well for the possibility of what Shaun Wade might do in Baltimore. What was your initial reaction when you heard that Shaun Wade was drafted by the Ravens?
Yeah, throughout this whole pre-draft process, Jay, I really tried to hone in on some slot cornerbacks. And I say slot cornerbacks because that's where I do view Shaun Wade at the next level, who could fill in a void for the Ravens. Now, the Ravens have a good slot cornerback already in Tavon Young, but 3 season-ending injuries in 5 years. You can't really rely on the health of Tavon Young anymore. So they needed to go out there and get I think, a very productive slot corner. And Shaun Wade was someone who I profiled quite a bit throughout the entire process. I was ecstatic. I think, obviously, Shaun Wade, if he decides to stay opted out of the 2020 college football season and not come back and try to play his way, I guess, into a higher draft position or just coming back playing for his teammates, he probably would have been a first rounder, maybe a early mid-second rounder at the latest. But the Ravens get that talent, that slot cornerback talent at 160 in the 5th round. I mean, that's unbelievable just because, getting that type of player at that position. The Ravens love their, I guess, draft bargains is what I'll call it. And Shaun Wade certainly fills that, I guess, title for them because he probably won't play a ton right away, more of a developmental guy for them. But I see a scenario for the Ravens where they put him at nickel cornerback, also maybe try him out at safety a little bit, maybe a free safety type role, just try to see where he fits in on their defense. But overall, I was ecstatic with the pick.
You say excitement, and on draft day, it was either that night or 5th round, so it would have been that later on that day. I was talking to one of my buddies, and him and I go back and forth about Ohio State stuff, and he was talking about the same excitement that he has, and the words that came out of his mouth were, well, it was via a text. He said, Shaun Wade could not have gone to a better team for his situation and for his skill set. Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah, Jay, I think I do. And part of that reasoning is because when he gets put into a situation where he's not going to be forced to play right away. Now, could he make an impact if he did play right away? Sure. I don't down his ability right now, but you have a scenario where Shaun Wade can come into Baltimore and learn behind the likes of Marlon Humphrey, who has played significant slot cornerback snaps because of the injuries to Young. You also have Marcus Peters, Jimmy Smith, Anthony Avert, who's come on in recent years. So the ability for him to come in and just soak up information, learn, be able to hone his technique, figure out where he fits at the NFL level, and kind of put that 2020 season behind him and gain his confidence back. I think that's really important. Shaun Wade came on and outright said, he had issues during the 2020 season, injuries, family members passing, people close to him. There were a lot of things going wrong for him during 2020, and I think he thinks at least part of that slipped over to the football field and his performance on the outside. Obviously, moving outside also had a big part of that. But I think just a reset for him, coming into an organization with a strong culture is probably one of the best situations he could have gotten in for sure.
I read parts of it. I didn't read every single player, to be honest with you. But I saw that you did a draft grade for every single draft pick as part of your writing, post-writing after the draft. And Shaun Wade, 160 overall, the 5th round. You gave that pick by the Ravens an A-. Why?
Yeah, I think it was a home run pick. The reason it wasn't an A or an A+ is because the Ravens, did at that point have other needs elsewhere. They didn't draft a tackle throughout this entire draft, even though they ended up trading Orlando Brown Jr. to the Kansas City Chiefs. That left a huge hole. So I was expecting maybe offensive tackle depth, defensive line depth, but at the place they got Wade, at the position, and plus it's not like it wasn't a need. They had the need of a backup slot cornerback. The only reason I docked it, I guess, a couple points is because of the fact that the Ravens had bigger underlying needs elsewhere. But when you put all this into account, getting a player like Wade, he probably wasn't going to last much longer, to be honest, in the draft. I'm sure teams were starting to kind of figure, all right, the potential that this guy has to go back to that 2019 form, that's well worth a 5th, 6th round pick. The Ravens felt that obviously too. Wade seems excited. I mean, I'm excited. Everybody seems excited about the Shaun Wade pick in Baltimore. So an A- was right around where I thought this pick was for me.
You know, Kevin, I was kind of surprised that he fell as far as he did. I did expect, I had Shaun Wade like in my little draft predictions. I believe it was like a late day 2 pick. More third, well, no, it was day 3. I think it was a late 3rd round or early 4th round because of the change from inside to outside. Not sure what team would that picked him, where they would put him. Were you surprised he fell as far in the draft as he did?
Yeah, I thought he would go a little earlier. I had a day 3 grade on Shaun Wade, but it wasn't 160 day 3. It was probably mid 4th, late 4th, early 5th at the latest. The Ravens go and they get him, and I think a really good spot for them. And the Ravens, they love their secondary. They put a ton of emphasis and a ton of money into their secondary. So, they don't care how many good players they have. They like to stack that depth. And part of that reasoning is because they get just absolutely decimated by injuries every single year in the secondary. And it seems like they start the year with like 10 million corners, and then by the end of the year, they have 2. So with the Ravens, getting a player like Wade, who they know, and I think Wade himself knows, has the caliber and has the ability to go out there and play good football. And I think he'll be able to transition to the NFL game. If he goes and he sticks inside and he's able to maybe get some free safety reps as well, he'll play at a pretty high level. It might not be immediately, but with more experience, maybe a year or 2 in. If the Ravens decide that Tavon Young is too expensive and they want to maybe transition to a younger, cheaper option, they now have that, and they would have him for a couple of years to develop him in the way that they want, in the way that he wants as well. So I think for Wade, the fall was a little bit uncharacteristic, and I was surprised by it to an extent. I still had a day 3 grade on him, but I didn't expect him to fall as far as he did.
Last question for you. What do you expect to see from Shaun Wade? What do you expect how the Ravens will use him in year 1?
Yeah, again, with the secondary depth, it might be hard for him to find, consistent playing time at first. I think what the Ravens might try to do is use him on special teams and get him in on that side of the football just to get him contributing a little bit, get him, a little bit of a feel for the NFL game. And then if the injuries do strike, the Ravens now have the luxury of having Shaun Wade, who can come in and play on the inside while having Marlon Humphrey stay on the outside. Humphrey, like I mentioned, played inside for a lot of the time. Tavon Young was out because the Ravens just frankly did not have a better option. But now Humphrey's a better outside corner, so you can leave him on the outside, move Wade inside. But if everybody's healthy, if the Ravens go through this 2021 season, no secondary injuries, which, wow, that would be something. That would be amazing. I think that Wade still might get a few defensive snaps, but it might be more of a project pick where he's a special teams contributor, and then over the course of his rookie contract starts to get more playing time there.
Kevin Oestreicher, if you could take some time to let people know where they can connect with you via social media, then where they can listen to your show and also catch some of the writing that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on Twitter. My personal account's at ChaosStriker34. The show account is at Locked On Ravens. I do host and produce Locked On Ravens 5 days a week. Anywhere you find your podcast, although Apple Podcasts is having a bit of an issue right now. So anywhere, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, wherever you get them, we're there 5 days a week. Also, I write for Ravens Wire. I'm the managing editor over there. So you can find my content over on Ravens Wire, and all that's in my Twitter bio description. So you can go find me over there.
Guys, we're going to keep rolling on with today's show, but I want to thank Kevin for coming on, and then also be on the lookout for some more guests coming through to help us learn more about where former Buckeyes, where they'll be playing football, and what their new teams might do with them. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. Baseball season is in full swing, and you can track all the action at betonline.ag. Get all the latest news, odds, and info for all your sporting needs, including MLB, NBA, NHL, and all your UFC/MMA action. Before the next pitch, head over to betonline.ag on your laptop or mobile device and check out all the great sporting news, sign-up bonuses, and contest information. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore, guys, as this is your chance to get into the game as teams prep for their runs to the playoffs. Head to betonline.ag on your laptop or mobile device. And when you sign up today, make sure you use promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, your online sports book experts. And as we wrap up today's episode here of Locked on Buckeyes, once again, I want to thank Kevin Oestreicher from Locked on Ravens and the Ravens Wire as well for helping us learn how Shaun Wade will help the Baltimore Ravens defense in the upcoming season. Tomorrow, Brian Peacock, host of Locked on 49ers, will be joining us the entire space of the show to talk about the 49ers drafting Trey Sermon and picking up Justin Hilliard via the undrafted free agent market. One thing the Buckeyes picked up as the 49ers picked up Sermon and Hilliard late at the end of last week, the Buckeyes picked up a commit just a day ago from a young man that plays in the Sunshine State, Hollywood, Florida. To be exact, it is 3-star recruit Ryan Turner, who's on the verge or on the cusp, if he keeps on this trajectory, to be a 4-star recruit very, very soon. That is also via 24/7 Sports. That is the only recruiting service or recruiting numbers that I try to use here just for uniformity. 6'8", 180-pound cornerback, 380th player nationally ranked via 24/7 Sports, 34th cornerback ranked in the country, and then 48th player in the state of Florida, a state that is full of talent. Chaminade Madonna Prep is a school, Hollywood, Florida. This young man also runs track. He's a sprinter, and he runs relays as well. He chose, Ryan Turner that is, chose Ohio State over the following schools. There was a recruiting battle between Ohio State and Clemson. Ohio State ended up winning the battle, but there's also schools such as Florida, Georgia, Miami, Oregon, Penn State, and Texas A&M. Jimbo Fisher had quite a few guys go in the first round. Well, it's projected to have a lot of guys go in the first round next year, and what he's doing there right now at Kyle Field, people around the country gotta watch those Aggies, especially during the football season. Not just recruiting, but the entire year. Jimbo's doing something down there that might be special. Ryan Turner had an official visit, not only scheduled to go to Ohio State June 11th, but also has an official visit scheduled for June 18th to go to Penn State. And he wasn't expecting or planning on making his commitment at this time right now, but with the commitment, the relationship that he has built with Kerry Coombs and Matt Barnes, it was very, very influential to this happening right now, this commitment coming now rather than later in the year, even maybe this time next year or January of next year when this young man decided to commit. A couple things here. There are 12 2022 commits, hard commits so far. These are all hard verbals. The national letter of intent cannot be signed just yet for this recruiting class. But this young man, Ryan Turner, runs a 4.5 40, 10.9, 10.9 seconds in the 100-yard dash. He joins Kai Stokes, who committed over the weekend, Jaheim Singletary, 2 Florida cornerbacks, and then also Jair, I hope I said his name correctly, Brown, 4-star recruit out of Ohio. It's the 3 cornerbacks that are hard commits in the 2022 class. I'll go through the rest of that class here quickly to talk about who is there in the class so far, but also Ryan Turner, 3 years in high school, has totaled 72 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and 3 INTs. As it stands right now, the 2022 recruiting class goes, if I could get back to it, might be on the wrong page. Here we go. It goes as follows. There are 12. We all heard about Quinn Ewers, 5-star quarterback from the state of Texas. Jaheim Singletary, 5-star corner from Florida. You got CJ Hicks, 5-star linebacker from Dayton, Ohio. You got Caleb Burton, 5-star wide receiver from Austin, Texas. You can see and just hear 5 stars so far. A lot of talent based off what they've done so far in high school. Gabe Powers out of Ohio, 4-star. Jair Brown, cornerback out of Ohio. And you got Kyan Grace, Tegra Tashabola, Benji Gosnell, Bennett Christian, Ryan Turner, and Kai Stokes. A recruiting class right now that is full of talent that is not complete yet. And I am curious to see who commits to be a Buckeye very, very soon. I'm very excited with what I've read about Ryan Turner, his trajectory. He already has a good build, 6 foot 180. That could be 6 foot 180, 190, 192, 193, 195. Once he gets to high school, he can put muscle on that frame, and him being able to be really good in press man coverage, which Kerry Coombs wants all of his corners to excel at. This is a good young man to get, and I'm excited for his future, assuming he does not decommit, and he does eventually sign a national letter of intent to be a Buckeye and plays Ohio State football as soon as he can. Guys, this has been fun, a lot of fun. Thank you so much for enjoying this here podcast today. Remember, tomorrow, Brian Peacock, the host of Locked On 49ers, and also half of the Peacock and Williamson NFL podcast show that we've heard about for so long, he'll be with us tomorrow. 49ers drafted Trey Sermon. 49ers picked up Justin Hilliard via the undrafted free agent market. And him and I also talked, the conversation has already been recorded, also talked a little Trey Lance, Justin Fields, as well. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. If you want to send any email to me, jstevens317@gmail.com. That is the email address. And now that we're done with this, make sure you go ahead and check over and click over to the Locked On Today podcast, because that is the place to get more of the sports news you need in less time with the Locked On Today podcast. Follow the Locked On Today podcast on the Odyssey app or